Good morning. It's been a while. Hope you're well. I've not done one of these morning rambles for a long time, but the thought came to me this morning. The last lot I did during COVID, where we were all basically told to make sure you go out for a walk, and you had that 1 hour. Remember those days? And so I used to always go out to my local bushy park and go around there every morning, and then come back and do a morning ramble. I've not done one for quite a while. Actually, one of my colleagues who I've known for a long time saw these morning rambles and liked them so much that he actually started to do them for his internal communication. So they've obviously gone down reasonably well for some people. Some people got value out of them. So yeah, my notes are just behind me. So if I go like that, you'll know I'm actually looking at my notes. And then when I'm staring at you, I'm actually not. I don't have a script this time. Just a couple of notes. So during COVID, so out there. It's a bright morning. The skies are blue, really nice, and because it's getting lighter in the morning, it suddenly occurred to me that we're into the end of February. Better go out on our walks, because I'd been going to the gym last year daily. I was like sort of 6 o'clock in the morning. I was going to the gym. I was when I get focused on something, it happens. And so I went to the gym for half an hour every day. But then it came to August and I went on holiday and I came back and the routine was gone. And so throughout Christmas, etc., I've been putting on a bit of weight and, I've been just spending the last month, chopping off, it goes down like minus 0.2 of a pound and then up 0.2 of a pound and then up and down. But eventually it gets down over a period of time just by calorie counting. Nothing exercise is doing it, just by making sure I'm having less than 2,500 calories. But I also gave up alcohol a couple of years ago. Now that was more to focus in on the job at HSBC, because I knew it was going to be tough for the first little while till I get myself buried in. Because I remember I did a job way back with NCR, and it was assembler coding, and it was basically Deutsche Bank. It was I worked for NCR, but it was for Deutsche Bank to effectively send communication back to its IBM mainframes about each of the ATMs. And NCR provided the ATMs at the time. So basically I had to put in, people will know these days, SNMP records. So basically I had to issue SNMP records up to the mainframe host and then display it on its, at that time it was called NetView. But it was an assembler, both assembler code in the inside NetView, it was called, but it does your brain in. If you're caught 9 months, it was constantly doing assembler, and you just I couldn't sleep at night worrying about registers. Where did I put that code? Was it register 3? I put that code in, and you because you're just constantly with assembly. You're constantly swapping in and out little bytes of data to be able to run the program, and you've actually got to keep track of it all. So it's a bit mental. But it was a good time. So this time it was cryptography, and I knew that was quite a very focused subject matter that I need to pay attention on SSH keys and SSL and hardware security modules. So that's why I stopped drinking alcohol. And it's been great. That's 3 years now. And I've just last night I had something called Fizzeco. Just because it's zero, or Fizzero, I think it's called, from Marks and Spencer's. It's basically a lovely rosy sparkling wine with no alcohol in it. So it's actually quite nice. Just celebrating on an event or whatever, you can still participate. And then zero alcohol beers, there's just loads of them out there, so there's no need to drink alcohol. And I gave up coffee for a couple of years as well, and but I read somewhere that if you have they've done a study, and if you have 2 cups of coffee a day, actually it does provide good health and longer life to those people that were in the study. And if you drink more than that, it's there wasn't any improvement, and less than that there wasn't any improvement either. So I'm like, okay, I'm back on the coffee. So this morning I've had a coffee. You might notice I'm actually energized. Just been on a 1 hour walk. After one coffee, I'm feeling up. What else have I got to start to mention is, the other thing I was reading today was how to stay alive, how to stay alive longer, I think it was. And there was I mean, there's all these studies, but as you get older, you start to look at them and think, how can I improve my health and well-being, because it becomes more important when you get to my old age. Now, the thing that came at the top, and it was, these are, I kind of believe in the good studies. You don't read them all and think, oh yeah, that one in the Sun, that was definitely right. But this particular one was about, the top reasons that actually helped you to maintain a longer life. Surprisingly, obviously smoking and drinking were there, but they're number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Flu vaccines was 5. Cardiac arrest, cardiac rehab, exercise, being lean versus overweight, hypertension, and clean air were all kind of like at the bottom. The top 2 were social integration and close relationships. So I'm thinking, like this work from home, which I've been, enjoying, but does it give you that social integration that you need? And obviously, if you're, especially in London, there is no sort of social engagement with people out in the public. Nobody talks to anybody. So whereas in Scotland, everybody talks to everybody, anyone in the street. So perhaps that's something you should think of if you're considering whether to go into the office or whatever. I think we do need it, and connecting with people, real people, rather than. I went in just before Christmas there, and I went into the office and I met one guy that I obviously worked with, and he was taller than I thought he was, but then he got immediately on a call, and I was like, okay. That was the social interaction. And then I thought, right, okay, let me go and find out who else is in the office. I went on 3 floors of Canary Wharf. Nobody was in. It was a Friday after all, so maybe I chose the wrong day. But yeah, you got to make sure. I think you've got to consciously say, let's get some time with people and book a day in, and do all the fashion things like whiteboards and yellow stickies on the wall. Remember those? Bizarre. Anyway, one thing I wanted to talk about was Russia and Ukraine. So first of all, opinions on my own and not of my employer. I have to clarify that because obviously there are some things that get close to the wire, and this is definitely coming from what I'm thinking of, not anything to do with my workplace. The thing I was reading this morning was in the Telegraph. Not that I'm a regular Telegraph reader, I read all papers, so don't think that's my political persuasion. But it was about cyber attacks, because of the Russian and Ukraine escalation that's going on at the moment. And the first thing, it was like, well, we're not going to go in war and get tanks and, fly some Chinook helicopters over. Although I'm on the flight path for the Chinook helicopters here, so anytime I hear them, I'll let you know. If they've become a bit like Vietnam, sort of quantity going above me. But so we will not likely be going to war. Not that I'm an expert, I'm just reading something that was in the Telegraph. But as a result, it's most likely to be done in cybersecurity attacks, is where GCHQ and the NSA are more likely to come into the fore, and they'll start to do a bit more work against Russian vulnerabilities that they've identified. So in that case there'll be a counter attacks, and so therefore we in UK cyber security type people, we do need to be aware of that and be thinking about what that means to our organisations. And and I'm sure the things like, we're all just coming out of Log4j remediation. I'm sure many people have been doing that and keeping things up to date. We DDoS and WAF, distributed denial of service and web application firewalls. I'm sure everybody's looking at what they're doing there, because they can be really useful and protective. And web application firewalls, what are you doing in terms of preventing that signature that's coming in, and stopping it getting to the application, because you recognize that signature. It's not auto learning, so a lot of this tends to be manual, clever people thinking about how they should configure it, but put the labour in, and you'll get results. What else have I got? Configuration management. What you've got, what's out of date, installed software, and more importantly, how it's configured. Because sometimes you put in 100 servers and they're all at different configurations. They're not always at the same level. I'm not talking about the operating system. I'm talking about the parameters you use within that. How do you know that they're actually the latest? Well, you use tools to double check, and then you provide reports afterwards, and you then tell the department, by the way, I've noticed 2 servers that weren't configured in its most secure way, so you better get something done about that. But a lot of the big organisations are doing things like that anyway. And maybe I'm teaching Granny to suck eggs, but as long as you're the smaller and medium-sized organisations, think about that as well. Patching, of course. Make sure your software's at the latest level. Everybody does that, because it might actually have the more secure version in there, and then communicating to everybody that you've actually done that. One of obviously education on phishing. I've seen recently some phishing attempts coming through Teams. So it might even come through social media. I noticed that there was an email I posted the other day there, somebody saying, "Hi, this is Jeff Bezos, and I'd like you to click on this link and send me 500 so that I can send you 5 million US dollars or something like that, because I'm a generous person." I'm thinking, wow, they're still out there. It's no longer from a Ugandan prince. It's now becoming Jeff Bezos himself. And it actually put the signature Jeff Bezos billionaire. So I was like, is that not obvious to people? But somebody commented, sadly, people do they're vulnerable people out there. So just continuing that education with people and your communities and your staff. That's going to stop getting the exposure in there in the first place. Incident management, and how you react to an event. You should. I always like rehearsals. I remember one big one in the Royal Bank many years ago, and we had this room of about 60 of us who were very close. I headed up telecoms and the desktop area at that point, and so there was all the senior managers were in this rehearsal event. And right, okay, what do we know? And we'd all be given as a bit of role playing, so we'd been given some information as before we went into this big room, and the chief of technology said, right, okay, so what do we know? And I had been given a bit of information that said that the batch processing hadn't gone through that night. So and obviously we're starting, and nobody had anything to say. What do we know? And I realised, I've got a bit of information. I've got to volunteer this. So in front of 60 people, you're kind of new to this. We're thinking, what's going on? I had to volunteer this information. I've just been advised that there's a batch processing failure overnight. Thank you, Doug. And on with it. And then we understood where the problems were. So I think rehearsing is so useful. At Lloyds Bank we did one as well with their commercial banking. We did working with Deloitte. They had produced the scenario and the role play where we were under attack, and getting people around the table feeling it real. People in the business actually really understanding how important and serious these things can become. If you're not involved in it for a long time, then you come a bit, is this real? And so therefore heightening awareness with those people that are in your incident management is a good idea. And just my outlook in terms of where we are, and good old Boris Johnson, who most of us thinks is a bumbling idiot, a lot of the times. But in essence, I think he's in the right place for this. And leaders are always look good after, a skirmish or a war or anything like Thatcher did, during the Falklands crisis. But, I'm a bit of a Churchill fan. I know he's not everybody's cup of tea. I've got this little book here, that I was got given for Christmas of his little quotes and all that. He even, in fact, Boris, I've written, here you go. Boris has even written a book, The Churchill Factor. And, you know, so he knows how Churchill, the mindset that Churchill had to lead people, and it is a psychology game with Ukraine. You know, is Putin? I have seen a change in Putin. I do get some of his, you know, his TikToks. Would you believe? Yes, I know it's a young person's social media, but there's some good stuff on there. I like the comedy and various other things, not the silly dancing. But you know, and I also follow Kim Jong Un and Putin just to see what junk they send out to the, you know, the TikTok community. And he's changed Putin just in recent days, just turned a little bit nastier in his communication, and that's just psychology, you know. So I'm sure Boris, you know, is up for this, and he'll lead us in a good way through whatever we have to do this year. So anyway, be aware of it. You don't want to be complacent. That's the opposite of what you need to be. So if you're in cybersecurity and IT, have a think about, you know, what you can do in your own organisation to tighten up the loose ends. So anyway, that was a long morning ramble, 16 minutes. I see. I don't know if it'll upload. Anyway, you have a fantastic day, and I'll maybe do another morning ramble if you like and share and comment. Otherwise, I'm just not doing it again. All right, have a good day.